Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
Hi, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
And welcome back to Romulans Bearing Gifts. It is episode 60. Woo, break out the Romulan ale. Just to take a sidetrack, because I know if you're keeping up with the feed, you're like, oh my god, where's that next episode of Picard Season 3? Well, we weren't all on the same page in our own lives at the moment. So we're picking up from, I don't know what episode way back when me and Caleb started doing Discovery. And the point of that at the time was Caleb had only seen Discovery Season 1, and we were getting into Strange New Worlds, and I was saying, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of backstory on Pike and Company, a la Discovery Season 2. So that's why we started it way back. And it has been a discovery, let me tell you what. Revisiting Season 2 of Discovery. And of course, now Carl is here to chime in. And so we're going to pick up with episode 4 of Season 2, An Obol for Charon.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in. I think it's kind of funny. I didn't realize this, but we started doing Discovery on episode 30, and now here we are on 60, and we're back to it.
That is nuts.
It is nuts.
That is really nuts.
Yeah, funny timing. And why did you want to return for this here? Why pull this out of your hat at the moment?
What was it? Because, you said it was going to be a good idea since Strange New Worlds is returning in a couple months at time of recording, which I wasn't even considering that. I don't know. I guess I just wanted to go back on that revisitation journey. And after, watching the episode now in preparation, I think it's really interesting to revisit this season, especially now, this episode and the following episode, because despite whatever I thought about this at the time that it aired, I have much different thoughts now, but not just because of newer Trek that's come out on Paramount Plus since, but even other series out there. So there's these things that didn't exist at the time that this aired that I have since seen, and it definitely affects my new opinion or understanding of this episode or this season or this time in TV Trek. It was long ago now that there's a lot to look back on, and this aired in February 7th, 2019, originally, this episode.
Oh, wow.
A lot has happened in TV land, and that's also right on the cusp of the pandemic happening. And that's crazy, because this feels like it was years ago, but then again, pre-pandemic also feels like it was years ago.
Yeah, it's like a time vacuum.
But if you would have asked me, what season were we on a Discovery when the pandemic started, I wouldn't have thought it was Season 2, because that seems ancient now. But here it is. Whew. I don't know where to start, or if somebody wants to start on this one.
Maybe a little plot summary for us to catch us all up to speed with what was going on here, if you got one.
I don't have the summary written down, but let me see. Tell me if I'm wrong. They get a lead on Spock, because obviously that's what they're still trying to do in this season and in this ongoing story arc. And they got a lead, and they set coordinates, and they're on their way. But kind of like the asteroid in the motion picture, just as they're on their way, well, not as immediately, but as they're en route, they get pulled out of warp by this yet another space anomaly type situation that pulls them out and immediately causes all this mayhem. Or someone clear this up for me, because I didn't take the time to do deep dive research on this episode. So that somehow the computer gets infected by some type of virus that disrupts the universal translator. But does anyone know how that happened? Or
as far as I understand, that thing is trying to communicate.
Oh, that's right.
And so it's reaching out to the ship and trying to, figure out how to interface with its Starfleet communications mechanism. So it's trying to.
So I guess you're right. I totally forgot. So again, this is like a twist, not the same, but it's like a twist on the situation with the whale probe and Voyage Home. Essentially, this is like a redo of that, a little bit, not exactly. I forgot that was part of it. And yes, I also thought it was strange that I get it, the universal translator is mucking up, but I thought right away, and they addressed it eventually, but I thought, why can't all the Earth Standard speakers just go ahead and understand each other?
I was a little confused about that too. Yeah.
But I guess it would be like if we were all speaking English, but for some reason our brain was receiving another language, even if we're speaking English. I guess that's what was happening until I think Saru I can't remember who patched up the issue.
Yeah, it was him.
Yeah. So then yes, Earth Standard was understood at that point.
Yeah, I still have some questions about universal translators because it is my understanding that they are not, implanted or anything, that they're creating a cone of audio around, folks as they're walking around the ship or in the immediate vicinity of the technology. So
you're right. I kind of thought the same thing as you. And again, I would have to do some deep research because wasn't it initially, the way we understood canon, like in the TOS era and movie era, that it was, you say like a cone, like wasn't it supposedly, oh crap, maybe this is TNG era, where it was tied into the communicator?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought it was still that way. Because there were a couple of episodes where, even in Discovery, where they've gone to another world and they had the communicator with them that was necessary for the universal translator. So, like I said, it's not like a babblefish where you're putting something, in your ear or, medically you can hear. I think that it's a cone of audio around you that, that does the translation. So it still doesn't quite clarify why people that would not be, Earth wouldn't speak the same language, regional Earth, wouldn't be able to understand each other. My best guess is that it is like a really loud translation going on at the same time. So even though we speak English and we're right next to each other, there'd be this loud French chiming in over us that we couldn't hear, our local, language. My guess, but
right. Yeah, that's the only way I could understand it. As it's presented in the episode,
which does play as a little bit odd. But because you figure they could just be like, okay, well, let's just take these off or let's switch this off and just. But yeah, I guess you just got to buy it. It is kind of interesting to play with it. I don't mind that as a concept.
Oh yeah, it's okay. This is not a major beef. It's just kind of a little curiosity.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as I'm concerned,
and it was a good way to signal right from the start that this is going to be a Saru focused episode, which is not. I don't know if I've seen a lot of these. Maybe season 1 didn't really have a ton of them. I remember there was that short treks, but this is the first official episode that I can remember.
Certainly more in season 2 and beyond. Certainly more into Saru. He definitely becomes, in general, a major focus of the series. Like if there is a triumvirate or duopoly, I don't know. He's definitely part of it as far as Discovery is concerned.
Yeah, and I remember from the first season being like, okay, if there's one character that I can walk away being like, I wouldn't mind seeing more of them, it was Saru. But I don't know, his relationship with Michael in this episode, I didn't feel like it played as emotional as they were hoping to make it work. Especially some of those later scenes I thought just felt really flat.
Oh, certainly. Okay, so we're going to broach that topic.
Sure.
So, because, we're just a few minutes into this, and I realize, oh crap, this could go really long. Just on this one episode, because I'm starting to realize how many thoughts I have been generated in me and revisiting this now. And this is one of those areas. So, I didn't expect Carl to be joining us on this one today, but it's perfect, perhaps, because Carl's voice was in my head like in the first 10 minutes of watching this episode by myself. Because this first scene where it seems like, or the scene where it seems like there's more going on with Saru than just having a cold, and where Michael's like, what's going on? Be serious and yada, yada, yada. It's that emotionality, man. It pops its head up so quick. And this is why it's kind of interesting now watching it, because I know we've discussed this before about Discovery and Picard season 1 and 2. But having now become more accustomed to Strange New Worlds and Picard season 3, it is really weird to like see this, the way it happens so quickly in Discovery scripts, how it just pops. Because of course there's emotionality at times in Strange New Worlds and Picard season 3, but they work up to it, like they get to it like in a more organic way. Whereas in Discovery, it's like they're hitting their points. Like we have to hit, 3 or 4 emotionality points per episode. And so it's like they're just ticking boxes off, and boom, they come out right away, in the opening minutes of the episode. I don't know. Does somebody else want to say something about that?
Carl?
Well, Caleb, I'm curious of your opinion, because Eric's already got me. So what do you think? What do you think?
No, yeah. I'm right there. I was sinking into my seat, because it's like, okay, yeah, once again, we're jumping right into this. And it makes it worse that this has that kind of weird flowery dialogue splattered throughout it too, just like in Picard season 1 and 2. Especially the final scene with, or I guess not final, since Saru didn't die. But during his supposed death scene, there was so much dialogue that I was like, this is not how humans speak to each other. This is just such fake writing. Yeah, no, I'm just not on board for this style of whatever you call this, Star Trek. So yeah, I was trying to focus on the stuff I could find to like, more of the sci-fi concepts, but all the emotionality I just thought rang really false.
Well, Eric's got my opinion on this as well. I think one of the main goals about revisiting this particular window of Discovery was to see Pike coming in, Pike coming in, and seeing what he brought to Discovery. The emotionality is clearly there, and Eric, you put the proper touchstone on this by taking us back to, what is it, 3 years ago? When was this? 2019?
February 2019.
I mean,
wow.
We've seen a lot since then. We have seen what Discovery eventually can evolve into. We've seen what Strange New Worlds has become. We have seen Mandalorian and Andor since then.
Yep. Yep, that's been on my mind too in this.
So when this was coming out, this was actually an improvement.
I know, that's true.
This was an improvement over what Discovery had been. The I guess we'll tactfully call it the melodrama of it had been tamed a bit with Pike being on board. And they had done some things to try to tone it down a little bit with this episode. So, all right. So the context one is we wanted to see Pike, where he came from, and to see him and how he contrasted with so much more of the emotionality that used to be a part of early Discovery. So this was an improvement over how the series had been the season prior and up until this point. We also get to see some really new characters. I mean, finally we get to see Reno showing up. She is a lot of fun, and she brings something very valuable to Discovery. So this is the first time we really get to see her kicking in and doing engineering stuff. So that's kind of fun. But things are. We have Pike trying to bring some adult into the room energy on board, and things are tamed down a bit compared to normal, or compared to how it had been up until this point. But the emotionality is still there, and Caleb, you jumped on it right away. We understand that there is a connection between Burnham and Saru, and in this episode, we get to see a stronger connection between the two of them. How successful that emotional resonance is a bit up for debate, but they tried with this one. And the fact that, like you said, this is one of the first times we really get to see more of Saru, and his evolution, literal evolution, begins with this episode. That's kind of important. That's kind of important. So there's stuff happening. There's stuff happening here. It's foundational. Foundational.
Yeah, and I am mildly interested in his backstory with his. I think they explored in that short Treks, but I don't really remember that one too well. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious about how his species seems to be like almost bred as some sort of prey species to a superior one. I'm interested in that.
Right.
But yeah, some of his, I don't know.
There'll be more of that in this season.
Yeah, and you're right. Some of that stuff is interesting, certainly. I mean, to examine a species like that in this series or whatnot. My only beef with Saru and the focus on Saru and the more that we'll learn about his species is, I feel like at some point, well, it probably won't even happen because, and this is weird because there's certain spoilers about Discovery 3 and 4 that I still dance around because Caleb hasn't seen them. So
I'm being delicate too, because I mean,
so it boxes me in a little bit on certain things, certain aspects. But all this focus on Saru's species, I feel like we need an explainer at some point as to why, because it seems like the species is really important. Why we've never seen like other members of this species pop up? Because again, this is technically like a prequel. Why do they not ever show up in any significant way in any other era? I need some little explainer just so I can rest easy on that.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. The Star Trek's got the authority to create new alien species, and so you cannot, you cannot invent him back into the original series, reasonably, but we do also know that his species is rather insular. So,
right.
He is really the radical vanguard for his species. So the fact that we don't see a lot of them, we know that he's part of a rather, an insular species. So it's going to take a while for them to come out anyway. And besides, they've got a lot of work to do at home. So let's go with that for now.
Sure. Okay.
And hey, this is the darker Discovery. By the end of this series, maybe they'll all be wiped out. I'll go extinct.
Might be.
I don't know.
And hey, feel free to spoil away. I have no care.
No. It's not necessary. There's plenty more to talk about. Okay, so another thing about this episode, which I felt upon rewatch, I can't remember how I felt about this aspect I'm about to bring up when I saw it the first time. But again, now having all those newer Trek series on our belt, and yes, Mandalorian and Andor were kind of like in my mind as well, as far as storytelling, and also listening to the recent cut bits. Was it 24 on the MHC feed that just came out recently, where Caleb is talking to Isaac about episodic versus serialized storytelling for different shows. And so I had listened to that prior to watching this episode, listening to Caleb and Isaac. And so I couldn't not think about it because, the way they promoted this season before it even started airing was, ooh, we're gonna meet Spock, like the new Spock, and it was in the trailers, it was already spoiled. It wasn't like a secret or anything. And so we're just like, All right, where's Spock? Where's Spock? Episode 1? Nope. Episode 2? Nope. Oh, we're trying to get to him. My gosh, we're on episode 4 now this season. All dying to see Spock. And he could possibly be over here. Let's warp over there. And then boom, speed bump. And this totally felt like something that has happened here and there in Mandalorian seasons, where the Mandalorian character sort of has like a goal, and then he has like those damn side quests that pop up here and there. And that's all I could think with this. Like, oh, rabbit nabbit. Like, why is this even happening? And it's not just that. I get it. There's a lot of things involved here. I think part of the reason why there's a speed bump is because, I forget, there was 14 episodes or something in this season?
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot by Paramount Plus. I know Kid was like, do we really have to watch all this?
Yes.
So, which is a lot by modern streaming show standards. And so this is essentially a bottle episode. And I guess you just have to expect those when you're trying to fill out so many episodes. And when there are particular episodes that really blow the budget in this type of show. So I get it. There has to be. And that's what kind of sucks about the 14 episode run, if that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'd rather have a shorter episode run to cut some of the chaff. But okay, here we are, and I guess as a bottle episode, it's not the worst thing because it doesn't necessarily feel like a bottle episode. I don't know. Opinions may vary on that. Because it definitely feels like something more important is happening.
Well, there's some valuable foundations. Like I said, I listed through the fact that we get to see Reno become a part of the crew is a big deal. She brings a kind of Pulaski contrary energy.
Hell yeah!
That was the same reason we needed Pulaski in Next Gen is the same reason we need Reno here. You get a certain vibe of what's going on, and you got to shake stuff up. And I have always liked Reno's character and what she brings to Discovery. So we get to meet Reno. That is an exciting addition to the Discovery crew. Now, without spoiling too much else, I will simply say the fact that they encounter the accumulated intelligence of thousands of years of alien world that's now been downloaded into the computer of Discovery. There's likely some valuable information there that that could be useful later on. So in some ways it is a bottle episode, but in other ways that there's a lot of foundation stuff. We got Pike, we got Reno, we got alien knowledge going on here, and then of course we finally get some tangible connection to the mycelial network. So there's stuff happening. It's just, kind of disparate. It doesn't, you don't quite feel it all, happening at the same time here. So it's foundational. It's foundational stuff.
Yeah, and we also first meet Una, and we feed more into that, Spock plot, like you mentioned earlier.
That's right.
So yeah, they're building, definitely.
We do see Una. It's such a damn tease.
Yes.
I hate teases like that. I mean, especially, and I don't dislike Rebecca Romaine, but I think Carl's the one who really loves her.
I do,
if I remember correctly. Yeah,
this is true.
I'm not as in love with her in general. But that being said, how are you just gonna show her real quick at the beginning and then just dismiss her?
Yeah,
not a fan of that.
It does feel like a waste of a spotlight. Could have gotten a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Man, I have so many bullet points to go through that I haven't even written down, but they're all on the tip of my brain. Let me try to get through some other things, little things. I know they address it in the dialogue, but I still hate this idea that the hologram communication. And I know Pike says, let's do away with that. Let's just go to the view screens. Okay, but why do it in the first place?
Yeah.
It's so what the it's so out of Star Trek. And it's why?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you know why. They're trying to show off their cool special effects abilities.
No, I don't want that.
Well, I'm just that's what's going on. They're trying to modernize the retro And they just naturally assumed, everybody's got hologram communicators. Why shouldn't we do that? Even though it's in blatant violation of everything that we know about Star Trek in the time of the era and what they're trying to do. But there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that where they do asynchronous stuff for Star.
There is, but if we're post Star Trek Nemesis timeline,
100%.
Okay, play around, I guess, but not in a damn prequel. Especially a prequel to TOS.
Well, they are taking liberties, and I never thought it was a great idea to go backwards in time anyhow with science fiction.
Absolutely.
I like my sci-fi being aspirational. I like projecting forward, and so to project backwards in the future is just fraught. There's just no way you're going to do that.
I like the idea or the prospect of exploring pre-future history. But it is so difficult. You have to have so much care, and then that's the problem.
Yeah. Prequels are always going to cause issues because people want to expand.
But conceptually, I think it's cool. And by the way, I know if you've gotten this far into the podcast and if you're a regular listener, this isn't going to be a total shit fest. There's actually some more redeeming qualities that may come out. Okay. So again, like going back and looking at this 4 years later, I can see the contrast now. Let's just talk about like the bridge set or even the bridge and other interior sets of the Discovery. I can actually see how they look different than like, let's say the Stargazer, et cetera, like on Picard more recently. And of course, and even Strange New Worlds with that, whatever that Enterprise is, because that's also unclear for so many reasons now. But I can actually see the difference, which I could not see circa 2019.
Well, we didn't have much to contrast it with back then, right?
Yes.
I mean, we have a modern timeline to work with. I mean, again, it gives right back to the problem. All we had back then was Discovery. Other than Discovery, we had Enterprise, and so we didn't have enough design history to figure out what they were trying to tell us graphically with the eras. Now that we've got 2 other generations minimally of technology of the Star Trek universe to contrast this with. Just look at the uniforms. So we've got something.
Oh yeah, the uniforms. That's very obvious.
We've got something that we can kind of anchor with and get a little sense. But
because see, so if you would have asked me like a week ago, hey, what does the bridge aesthetic look like on Discovery? In my mind, I would have thought something like the Stargazer, something like the Titan on Picard. Something like that. In my mind, they were all interchangeable. But actually sitting down and watching this last night, no, they're the Paramount Plus ilk, but it's actually quite different. And I'm trying to turn this into a compliment.
Whatever you thought about, the various incarnations of Star Trek, I have always thought they had a solid design aesthetic. I'm not a big fan of Enterprise. But and that's the worst example of going backward in the future. But it always had a consistent look. It had a look that I understood and that I respected. Same thing with Discovery. I didn't know what they were doing, but I could always feel a strong design aesthetic with it. I was like, oh, okay, this is so. I have always been keenly aware because I guess I've always liked the technology aspect.
So now with my 2023 hindsight looking at this set, now it kind of looks okay. First of all, I actually really like the bridge on the Kelvin in the 2009 Star Trek movie.
Okay.
I actually think that is a really cool, interesting bridge design. I see a little bit of that Kelvin design. But I actually can see this now if I really try hard. I can see this being something in between Enterprise aesthetic and I can't say TOS, but a future movie Paramount Plus like aesthetic. I can see this being a weird stepping stone after Enterprise.
It feels more related to the Abrams stuff, I would think.
Well, like I said, there is the Kelvin specifically, that ship, the Kelvin, the one with Chris Hemsworth at the bridge. I mean, in command, or sort of in command. I think they're pulling from that look a bit, but I like that look because it kind of works for me as being a, what is this, 2255-ish? Because, when you did the Abrams movie, love it or hate it, there's no way you could recreate like the Cage Enterprise and then put that in a 2009 movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like that would be preposterous.
Yep.
So if I think of the Kelvin as like an interpretation for movie audiences, good enough. I like how it has that, that more, what does that look? How would you describe the Enterprise NX-01 bridge look? That more like utilitarian, like not really.
Yeah, utilitarian. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was thumb screws and aluminum plating is what was going on with that.
And I can see the Kelvin as like an evolution of that. I mean, for the big screen, and then this, which okay, everything has to be fancy with the lights these days. Now that LEDs exist, but I see it now. I see a contrast. Is all I'm trying to say, and it kind of works with me with this retrofit of how the future looks. The way it looks in Paramount Plus days. I'm okay with that. I'm still not okay with the actual square footage of the bridge. Like, it is absolutely enormous. Is this possibly the biggest, like, Star Trek bridge that we've ever spent significant time in?
No.
Because it seems much bigger than the Stargazer to me. Much bigger than the Enterprise D or E.
It's not bigger than the D's. The screen is bigger than the D's, but the square.
You don't think so?
No.
No. Oh my goodness.
No. It's the D's bridge is bigger, even though the screen is significantly smaller. That's the very odd kind of contrast with it, because there's room to walk around the edges of the controls. On the D, there's the carpet framing, the walls, and all of that. You don't get that with Discovery. Everything's jammed together, and it's.
It just seems like, I don't know if it's the communication station or the science station. It seems incredibly far away from like the left. I never know what do you call the one that is the right, the navigator, and the left, the helmsman.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
On stage left.
Yeah.
Well, whoever's the one who sits on the left in front of the captain, it seems like if you're at the communications science station on the Discovery Bridge, the person who's front left seems incredibly far away. I don't know. It seems to me like there's incredible, like I said, like space, land area, whatever. I don't know. I'm not convinced that the Enterprise D bridge is that big, and I brought it up multiple times. Being on the replica that used to exist in Las Vegas of the bridge, and it seemed like it was 1-for-1 of a replica. It's incredibly claustrophobic when you actually experience it in real life. Being on that bridge with about 10 or 12 other human beings was incredibly tight feeling on that bridge.
Yeah, what I'm going to say is not tied to the design, but just to talk about the bridge. Just looking around at this bridge crew that we have, all these, in my opinion, kind of anonymous people. Are these characters, or are they just like extras with designs on them? Like, do we get to know this crew? I was looking at them all. I'm like, I know I've seen them all in the previous episodes, but like, who's that robot lady? Who's the one with like the maybe Borg bits on the side of her face? And I was like, who are these people?
Well, they are anonymous regulars. Reoccurring characters, especially at this point. I mean, not anonymous. I mean, they didn't give in names, but they aren't strictly just faces.
They try is the quickest answer.
They try. Okay.
They each get a story. Well, yeah, they each get a story. Now,
yes.
How memorable it is, we can revisit at another time. But they each get a story, so that's
okay.
Yes. Eventually, virtually all the regular looking faces on the bridge will have some moment.
That's something.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was looking at them all, I'm like, I know I've seen these people before, but I just they don't feel like characters. They just feel like extras.
No, you're right. You're right though. They do feel like extras, but they actually will all stick around and have their moments eventually. Believe it or not.
And how about this guy, the comedy relief alien? I wrote down his name. What was it here? It's the one with the really big eyes.
I know who you're talking about.
He's like Norm. Yeah. He does not get his own episode, but he does hang around like what's his name on DS9? That was at the bar all the time. So he adds the comedic value and does his part, but yeah, he does not get an episode.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what happens to that character actually out of all of them in this episode.
Yeah, and I'm almost positive he wasn't in the first season, because I remember when we did the brother episode, I was like, oh wow, who's this new comedy relief character who's like sneezing on people? And yeah, they're still pulling that comedy mileage with the but it's got 6 sinuses. How hilarious.
Actually, the character he weirdly reminds me of, but you have to expand your mind to make the connection. If you guys know, I know you both do know the motion picture. When they talk about how Kirk is going to be taking command, they're on the bridge, and there's that one guy with like the weird eyes and the pale skin and the big hair, and he's like, Decker knows this shit better than anyone, and like Uhura's like, but our odds of coming back for this may have just doubled or whatever she said. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I remember the scene, but I can't picture the guy.
Yeah, I see that, but
I've always focused on that nondescript character. Like it's like his one moment to speak in the movie. I've always noticed that guy because he's so negative. He's so Debbie Downer, and it feels so not Star Trek like. And because of that, he's always stuck out to me as like memorable.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, but I did want to comment, since you mentioned the costumes earlier. It's weird seeing Pike in the Discovery getup with those giant, was it like a giant collar? Or I guess not a collar. I don't know what that thing is, but whatever that is around their neck. I hate how the front is so huge.
The collar bothers me.
Yeah, I don't like that, and it actually gets worse in future seasons of Discovery.
Oh wow!
I really don't like the collar in the most recent season.
The collars bother you guys. Look, the piping bothers me. The collars I don't really care so much, but it's that shoulder piping that I'm like, okay,
I'm okay with it. And you know what? I actually liked how they made the colors bronze, silver, and gold. I actually kind of think that's cool for like a weird side turn in Federation or Starfleet color identification.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's interesting. Bronze, silver, gold. Like it's easier for me to wrap my mind around that rather than switching beige and red. I'm still dealing with that. Like it still throws me when I go from watching TOS to something TNG or post TNG. I still can't wrap my head around completely swapping red and gold. It's so weird. I still think about that, but I can do bronze, silver, gold. Somehow that matches up for me better. But no, I was gonna say the other thing that struck me about Pike, like seeing him, like I didn't realize, like, because I'm used to him being like pretty much like full gray now.
Yeah,
he's going through like a Jay Leno stage at this point, which I completely forgot about.
Well, it's been a while.
And he doesn't have like his famous bouffant hair yet either. Like they were saving that.
Little tamer.
And just on Pike, I don't know. I was enjoying the stuff he was doing earlier in this season, and he's fine here. But he just feels so in the background that he didn't really have a spotlight in this episode, which is unfortunate.
You're absolutely right. I feel like the regular writers of Discovery were like, man, we put so much effort into, making a bang with him at the beginning of the season. Can we just take a break and just go back to our comfort zone for a little while? Like, I think it was really hurting their wrists, like to include like this masculine, like leader type, that they just kind of put him on the back burner for this episode, so that he very much is, you're right, in the background. He's not making that statement, that bold statement he made like in the first episode or two, where he was like really taking charge. which I don't like, but it's fine.
Yeah, it is what it is, and again, it gives us much more time to focus on Michael and Saru. And again, I think I commented in those first three that there's just something about the way that she plays this character that I just find so strange. Like maybe I just have to excuse it as it's a human pretending to be a Vulcan, and that's why it feels so weird. But she constantly switches back from like super robotic and just awkward in her deliveries to much more believable, like emotional kind of pleas that she makes. And the emotional stuff plays like a real person, but the robotic stuff just is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Such a weird delivery she has for those bits.
Oh my god. I think this is the Gato in the room that you just brought up, which I didn't have in my notes, but now that you brought it up, it's completely insane. They should never have tried to even deal with this when they invented the character of having this human who was like adopted into like Vulcan life, because you're right about everything you said. But furthermore, for being this human who was raised in the Vulcan way, she somehow becomes even more emotional than a normal human.
Well, I guess that makes sense. In a way.
Does it make sense? I mean, maybe if you're rebelling against your parents,
no,
I guess that could make sense. But that's not the way she comes off. She comes like she's insanely emotional.
Yeah, she's constantly trying to repress, and so the moments when she can't handle it, it just all explodes out. And maybe that makes sense, but it's just it's jarring.
It makes sense when it happens to Spock. Like when he tries to control his human side, and for whatever reason it comes out in bursts. It seems to make sense. Like with this, you have to explain that to me. I don't know, because to me it just makes it even worse how incredibly emotional she is. And I hate to harp on this because it's low hanging fruit, but it is what it is. Like someone, and I'm sure it's already out there. Someone needs to compile like a table that shows, tick off every episode of Discovery where Burnham sheds tears. And I'm not trying to make it funny, but it's such a thing. How frequently her character sheds tears in an episode. And there's nothing even remotely close by any other captain in any other iteration of Star Trek. And it's like, again, it's ironic. It's the one. And so are you telling me that's what happens when a human tries to live the Vulcan way? It does the inverse of what you expect. And
again, as much as I, don't like T'Pol, she at least I feel like captures the essence of a Vulcan. Michael here, it's like she speaks like a robot when she's trying to be a Vulcan, and that's just not. It just does not play. It comes across as extremely awkward. I don't know, Carl. Does this bother you or?
No, I'm taking this all in because let me tell you what I'm thinking about. We've been with a character so long, even me and Eric, even beyond this. I kind of forgot or lost track of the fact that we might be seeing her emotional contrast of the Vulcan upbringing. You were reminding me that is supposed to be an aspect of her character, and I'm recontextualizing some things that I've seen. Here's what here's the broader part. The problem is there is forced emotion all throughout Discovery, through all of the characters. You're saying she cries more than any other captain. Everybody cries on Discovery. Everybody is always crying on Discovery. So I'm reframing because I'm like, well, I hear you all are saying, but literally everyone is always crying on Discovery. So it's not just specifically her. Everybody is doing that, and that's kind of ridiculous. But I'm reframing and re-indexing a lot of stuff because now I'm trying to remember the fact that she is also dealing with the fact that she had that Vulcan upbringing, but still, you all are focusing on her about this, and I'm just telling you, everybody is crying, and the emotionality is across the characters in Discovery. That sort of herky-jerky, we're all in and then it's not there. We're all in and then it's not there. It's that, not just with her. I was trying to sense it in a different way beyond her character, or I was trying to put, the fact that she did have that Vulcan childhood in there. But it's everybody, folks. This is Discovery.
No, everybody does. You're right, but I think, or at least it feels like Michael Burnham has the most hits, like per episode per season.
Well, the reason is because she's the lead, is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. She's the lead, but I don't know. It bothers me more that she's often the captain or number one person, and that just makes it worse for me than if it's someone else in the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, her having the Vulcan background even doubles down and makes it even worse.
That is
for me.
That is strange. I don't see her greater struggle with the stoicism.
Yeah.
I see the emotional eruption, but again, I'm just saying, if you go back to the last season where she and her boyfriend hook up, are you going to try to tell me that the how do we put it? Like, I guess the on again, off again, herky jerky nature of that supposed relationship is an artifact of her character, or is that really just the way Discovery does things? Right?
I think it's both, but it's a little bit more complicated because they definitely, minor spoiler, but they definitely try to directly alter her character in season 3. Dancing around it.
Well, I'm trying to go in order. That's about
but I mean, they try to write in an explanation of why her character takes a bit of a turn in season 3 onward.
Yeah, but that that's later on. We just building to this point because
Oh, I'm sorry. When you said boyfriend, I was thinking of future boyfriends.
No, I'm talking about. I'm talking about Tyler. I'm talking about Tyler.
Oh yeah, my fault. I got my lines crossed.
No. We're trying to go in the timeline here in the order. So all right. So I hear what you're saying, but like I said, everybody's always crying all the time in Discovery, and I don't know about that. One, Discovery has made a genuine effort to improve itself over time. As Caleb is, I don't know if you've been able to tell from the episodes that you've seen. They are building this ship in the sky. They're always tacking stuff on and trying things out, and so it continues to do this in very remarkable ways. I've never seen a show change as much as Discovery does over its run. I think they're getting better. I'm really curious to see what the final season is going to do, but it's noticeable. I mean, there's a lot that and Eric, we go back and we're seeing this after all of this time. We see some rather significant, changes in the characters, how they carry themselves, what's going on, just of the main characters in Discovery. So, it's interesting to watch the evolution. As I guess.
That's the story for a second, and I've been trying to end this episode like since 20 minutes ago. It's just weirdly there's so much to go over.
Yeah, there's still some bits.
Now. Yeah, for sure. But the blob thing that they have.
With Tilly.
But the one that they have like in quarantine, in Stamets area. I don't even know what Stamets area is, where they keep all the miscellaneous stuff, because it's not main engineering, is it? It's like its own separate location on the ship.
Spore drive deck.
How exactly did that come into existence? Does anyone recall in this episode?
How did what?
Did it come out of the Mycelial network? Did it happen before they got pulled out of warp? Is it in any way connected to the other alien entity, or is it its own separate thing?
It's its own separate. Yeah, we saw it.
I wasn't sure if something caused the other thing to happen indirectly.
I can't remember the cause, but yeah, it was in the previous. I think it was the 3rd episode, and that's when we had Tilly getting infected by that thing. Actually, I think it was maybe a meteor hit them or something, and then that thing flew out of the spore drive. It was something like that.
Okay, so it was just continuing on from the last episode.
Exactly. Yeah.
The blob thing coming in.
Yeah, and she's continuing her connection to that May character, which, yeah, some really bad stuff in this when she's like possessed by her. I think that is a really awkward scene and a really terrible scene.
May is the worst, but I have plenty more to say about her.
Yes,
in the next episode.
Absolutely.
So yeah, okay, no, but that's fine. Okay, so then it's cool again, yeah, because Tig Notaro, she's absolutely the coolest thing that's ever happened in Discovery. There's no question about that. And it is great to have her, really fully more interacting with the crew in this particular episode, because it wasn't clear, if I remember correctly, when we saw her introduced, it wasn't clear that she was going to tag along at the time or not.
Right.
And then she just kind of pops up, at least the way I remember it, which is cool. And this thing, okay, so the thing gets out because the systems on Discovery are going crazy, and oh my god, was it Tilly got enveloped in it again or something?
Yeah, it latched onto her. It flew around like a Langolier, and then it snapped onto her arm and started to take her over.
Yeah, and then they're gonna drill the hole into her head. I don't know why I'm having trouble remembering how that all went down.
All right. Well, long story short, the thing envelops her and then starts to communicate through her, and it's a threat. She's threatened. I need her. I want to talk to you. I have important things to discuss. Get out of our friend. What are you doing? And they have a little disagreement about it. Stamets tries to extract the thing from Tilly. It fights back and then envelops her.
Okay, there you go. Got it. I don't know. I'm mixed on it. The whole thing. I guess it's not the worst thing ever. I don't know why. I couldn't tell if I loved or hated the exact moment when Stamets says, like, "What's your favorite song?" and then they start singing it together. I couldn't tell if I loved or hated, or simultaneously loved and hated that moment.
Yeah, I just kind of was like, okay, they're trying for a tender little spotlight for these two characters, but at least for me, it didn't play.
I guess maybe it's because it's Star Trek or it has the label Star Trek. Because if it was another sci-fi thing, either a different franchise or just a one-off science fiction movie or something,
Alien,
I guess I could get more sucked into, they're singing this song. He's distracting her with a happy memory while he's drilling her head. Because it's Star Trek, and I love that song. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what song. It was David Bowie's song, right?
Yeah, Space Oddity.
Space Oddity. I just was, for some reason, my brain was trying to imagine characters on TOS or TNG or even Strange New Worlds randomly starting to sing Space Oddity.
Yes.
And I just couldn't do it. I was only on Discovery. And so that's what kind of I liked it, but not for Star Trek, quote unquote.
Yeah, it definitely was an odd moment. Kind of sweet with those two, I guess, but yeah, just didn't quite play right.
So yeah, very conflicted. I'll just share my last bullet point, and you guys can tell me if anything else you want to bring up. I completely forgot that the character, I think that's supposed to be is it a breathing apparatus she has on her face?
Yes.
But the security officer, I completely forgot that she came from Pike's Enterprise initially. Because she is definitely a character who grows on me as we progress through this series. She actually might be, she's one of my favorite characters. Well, probably her and Tig Notaro, perhaps, are my favorite characters in Discovery in total. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I just like seeing that. I just completely forgot how her origins in the show. Mm-hmm. So that was cool.
Yeah, and I guess to talk about the kind of more episodic element, we have this space anomaly that turns out it's just a dying creature wanting to leave some lineage behind, leave its knowledge. And I don't know why this element didn't play right. It kind of felt like something that they would have done in Enterprise, where we have this interesting classic Star Trek concept, but for some reason it just doesn't feel like they put enough time or clever writing to make it impactful. It just kind of plays flat. I just watch and like, okay, I maybe would have liked this, but
maybe. Okay, so a thought just came in my head spontaneously. Maybe this might be what's going on, because the entity in outer space that pulls them out of warp, that seems like the A plot, and the Tilly stuff seems like the B plot initially. But actually, in execution, the Tilly stuff is actually the A plot.
Yeah.
And the alien's the B plot. And maybe that's what's confusing us as we take in this episode, is that the B plot is the A plot.
Even worse, it's the C plot. The B plot's really Saru and Burnham with his death.
I was about to say, we completely left out the C plot, which is Burnham and Saru that's going on here.
Yeah, I think they spend more time with that than the creature itself.
They do. They spend one of the challenges with Discovery is they will bring everything to a screeching halt for an emotional moment. And I mean, this is not a joke. That is a fact. I'm merely stating that it doesn't matter what is going on. The ship could be on the brink of destruction. The universe is about to implode. Warp drive's about to explode. But we have to have this tender moment between the two of us, and the world slows down around us. They always do that in Discovery, and in my opinion, to their great detriment, because it's challenging to get pacing and tension and all of that right with the multiple elements of science fiction anyhow. So, to try to get the technobabble down, to get people to understand what the peril is, you already have to work very hard to build the context of tension and excitement and all of that. That's tough enough. But then to just layer in the mayonnaise of some kind of a emotional moment that Discovery has not totally figured out how to do in a way that resonates. I know what they're trying to do, emotionally. I always know what they're trying to do emotionally on Discovery. But, like you said, Caleb, it's either too rushed. It doesn't feel like they put enough quite thought into it, or, it's supposed to feel bigger than it is. But we that it's this particular character. We don't know that well. So here we are again. We have three plots, A, B, and C going on. We got, the alien, Cybertron trying to take over the ship. We got, Tilly being enveloped by the Langolier. And then, oh, by the way, one of the characters that we've known the entire series is, dying in this episode. And we need to talk about the history of Burnham and Saru, and why this has a social impact on, that's ridiculous. It's too much to expect the audience to be there at all of these different levels. It's just too much. So, that's why everything just, feels rushed. I wanted to know more about the alien artifact. I think that, and, it pains me to say, a single episode investigating the history of Saru and Burnham would have made that moment more impactful. But since, we got this kind of shoehorned in with the other stuff, the peril of them never I never believed that Saru was going to die, was long story short. I never believed Saru was going to die. So, if you don't believe that, then what we're seeing in this episode, and they did their best to try to, act it up, you don't feel that kind of peril for them either. So
yeah, it just becomes embarrassing watching that that very extended, oh, I'm about to die scene, and they have all this ridiculous dialogue.
Very extended.
Like, there was one line from Michael that I just couldn't believe. She was like, it was when Saru was like, you have to take this knife and you have to kill me. And she's like, do we have to do this? Is this truly inevitable? I was like, is this truly inevitable? Who wrote that line? Who speaks in this way? And then Saru was like, oh, you replaced the sister I had on, I can't remember the name of their planet.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? You're actually saying you replaced my sister? Like, that just seems so unnatural that someone would say that.
Yeah.
Oh, and her whole I love you, Saru, right before she's about to cut those and they like wither up. I was like, really? You have to make her say I love you too? It just all feels so overdone. Ugh.
Not to weirdly make a counterpoint on this issue, but because I have seen Discovery that follows this, and because of things that happen in future episodes of Discovery, returning back to this point, because of things that happen in the... See, this is all timey-wimey. But because I've seen the future, watching this last night, I very well could have believed that Saru was going to die.
Mm.
Now, this is going to sound confusing to someone like Caleb who hasn't seen what happens in the future. But just the way they write things in the future of Discovery, it kind of like retroactively made me think, oh yeah, Saru definitely could be dying in this episode.
Interesting.
It'll make more sense when you watch future episodes, because the short of it is Discovery has this thing with unceremoniously dispatching people, but it hasn't happened yet. And so I actually sort of believed it in a retroactive way. But I get what y'all are saying, and the fact that it doesn't go that way, it's a bit nuts. It kind of reminds me of the Royal Tenenbaums, if anyone's seen that movie. When Gene Hackman is telling his wife, like, yeah, it's terminal. I'm gonna die. Like, I can't remember how it goes, like in 2 months. But then later he admits to her, no, I lied. It's not terminal. And she's been crying. Like, what? What do you mean it's not terminal? Well, I can still die. Well, wait. And okay, it's funny in Royal Tenenbaums, but my point is, like, to keep returning to such things, it becomes like an unintentional joke to keep toying with us, to be on the verge of snatching someone away, and then no, it's all good, and then it's like unintentionally comical. But other final thoughts, because I have more things to say, but I can kind of carry them over to the next episode.
Yeah, I've just got two things. One of them is really short. That's just that I liked Saru's quarters. I always like seeing more personalized kind of quarters like that. I think that was pretty cool. My other note, just I couldn't believe this. I just started laughing when I was watching it. It was right before that scene when Michael and Saru have their death moment. And that's when he's like, oh, Michael, take me to my quarters. And she's taking him over to the turbo lift. And then we get a moment where we cut to a shot of every single bridge crew. They do it individually. And each one of them stands up and looks sad to watch them go. And I was like, are we really going to see every single one of them? And we do. I couldn't believe it. They have to be like, oh, everyone's so sad for their friend. I was like, oh, God.
Well, that's, their subtle way of letting us know that Saru is about to die. So, if the whole crew lines up, then it's got to be real, right?
Yeah, so
they're a little heavy-handed, little heavy-handed on Discovery.
Yeah, that's all I got. That was it.
Carl, any other final thoughts on this episode? Anyway,
I don't know. I don't know. I think surprisingly, it is, like I keep saying, it's foundational to many things that are coming. So, when you guys said that this was the one that you were watching, like, why am I really watching that one? But it ends up being a keystone to many things that will happen moving forward in Discovery. So, okay. All right. Not bad. Not bad as a choice.
All right. And I know everyone doesn't like it, but we got to rate it this episode out of 5 cranial bloodlettings.
I thought you were going to go with Langoliers. Let's talk about that fun reference.
I'm sorry, we don't have the rights from the Stephen King estate.
There you go.
I'm not sure they did, but yeah. All right, so what we're gonna do? What do we do out of?
I don't know. If I guess I'll go first. I would give it, for Discovery season 2 so far, I think this one was straight down the middle, 2.5. It wasn't terrible until near the end, but yeah, there was some okay stuff. I didn't mind the Tilly stuff, honestly. I thought that was the most interesting element of it. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. But yeah, mostly pretty mediocre.
I'm gonna go with a 3. I'll go with a 3.
Oh.
I'm sneaking some of the future in because, it seems disparate now, but many of these elements become important later. So I'll give it a 3.
Nice. And yeah, I kind of agree with what Caleb said. I kind of like the Tilly plot the best. And trust me, folks, I am no fan of Tilly at all. So for me to say that, I'm really, offering a
Fig leaf.
Yeah, fig leaf. I couldn't remember. Yeah, fig leaf. Yes, thank you. And not the soapbox one more time. I'm giving it 2.5 because actually I don't fully hate this episode, especially for a Discovery episode. I don't hate it. There's episodes I hate far worse than this. So I don't actually hate this one. And it is actually okay with a Discovery frame of mind. And the last thing I was going to bring up overall was that seeing this now 4 years later, I'm starting to better understand those people who really where Discovery's like their favorite Star Trek show. Because it's been very difficult for me to understand that, but this has been like the first time of me kind of peering into it from another point of view, because I could see like the other side of things where maybe this is your dream come true to have the crew of whatever Star Trek show you're watching really get into the nitty gritty of melodrama and like soap operatic type storytelling. I could see there's a niche for that we never really had that much before. A little here in DS9 and whatnot, but not full on like this, because like this, it does kind of seem like a telenovela to me. Take out the crazy zany parts of telenovelas and the crazy cheating and whatnot, but I mean just reusing your sets and having your characters involved in all these other things, like having the 3 subplots. It reminds me of like Game of Thrones having 3 plots happening in different continents of the world of Westeros, except we're doing that on the same ship, the same vessel. They're not actually thousands of miles apart from each other, but it weirdly works, I guess, if you're into that. And I don't know. It's not applicable to me, but now more than ever, I can see how this could be like that Star Trek happy place for like a certain niche of the fandom. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I can see it. Like if this is your thing, there's definitely no other Star Trek show that does it quite like this. And I don't know, I still think up to this point in rewatching season 2, I still think this for me is the strongest season of Discovery. There are certain aspects that maybe improve in season 3 and 4, but overall, I still think season 2 is the best for me in particular. But yeah.
Yeah, so 2.5. 2 2.5s, 1 3. So there you go. Not too bad for this one.
Yeah. Grey's Anatomy in space. Well done.
Yeah. And I could see how there's a market for that. I don't know.
I will say that whole, like the fake death scene where they play so dramatic, that was definitely making me think the CW.
Yeah.
I remember there was one episode of the Vampire Diaries where the entire episode was like a funeral march to this one character. Everyone was like, "Oh, we're so sad for you." And then the next episode, they're just back to normal. And I was like, we really wasted an entire episode for this. So there's an audience for that kind of stuff. Maybe it's just not me. But yeah, I'm excited to talk more about episode 5 because more interesting stuff there with it.
Yeah, I didn't expect to have so much for everyone to say about this one.
Yeah.
But there you have it, All right, so closing out the show today, this is Eric.
This is Carl.
And this is Caleb.
And until next time,
keep the mycelial room locked.
Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
I can't believe episode 60 already. It's crazy.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you told it to me. I wrote it down, but it didn't register. Oh my god, it is 60. That is nuts.
Yeah, I'm curious what episode you guys left off on. Let me take a look here. I know it was in the 20s, but I think it was low 20s.
It was like 23 or 22 was the last one of the original run.
Yeah, and I can't remember when we started up again. Was it sometime last year?
Yeah. It was like March or April of last year.
Yeah, it was on 21 when you guys ended with Strange New Worlds, an episode of Enterprise.
I know, which is so weird that we ended on Strange New Worlds, because I just imagine how many people clicked on it thinking we were talking about Strange New Worlds, the series. That was a weird, unintentional coincidence.
Yeah, and that's actually the only episode of RBG that I haven't listened to for whatever reason. I was just like, do I really want to go back and watch that episode? And I'm sorry I can't make it for The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes tomorrow. That would have been fun.
That's not the episode we're doing tomorrow. Or do you mean just in general?
Oh, yeah. No, that's the last one I uploaded. Yeah, in general.
Yeah, I watched that one, of course. Yeah. I don't know if have you listened to any of the commentaries?
Only the first two, which I edited, and I watched the movies beforehand. I haven't watched the other movies yet. So I haven't
okay. So you've seen them. Oh wait, so you only saw the one set in Victorian times?
I saw that one, and then the second one, The Adventures with Moriarty. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes.
Right. Those were both the period pieces.
I can't remember if that one was. I feel like that one was more modern. No, actually, yeah, it was period. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I watched the first 20 minutes of that newest one.
Yeah, it's really interesting when they switched to Universal. At least it's now 4 I've seen now. Is it? Or is it 3? 4? 3? 3. Seeing the first 3 of the Universals. Because they all came out during World War II, it is just crazy how there's the backdrop of World War II. It's not, large in the actual story, but it's definitely the backdrop, and that's just weird. I mean, experiencing like Holmes' adventures, it's akin to like the 80s Cold War stuff, like pervading through like every movie or whatever in the 80s. It's akin to that, except for World War II with the Sherlock Holmes.
Are you much of a fan of Sherlock Holmes?
I have not gotten a chance to watch it. Is all it is. I generally do kind of like the Sherlock Holmes stuff, but I have not seen this new modern incarnation of it.
Oh, me neither. Yeah, I mostly know it from the books. I haven't really seen too many of the movie incarnations, but Eric's covering them on his podcast, so I'm editing that stuff for him.
So he's talking about the movie version, the movie like with who's in the movie version that he's doing now?
They're doing all the 30s and 40s Basil Rathbone stuff, so I've been watching those along with them.
I think the last Sherlock Holmes thing I really watched was the movie series with what's his name, Iron Man.
Oh yeah, Robert Downey Jr. I never saw those. Yeah. Those any good?
Well, they're very contemporary. So there's a newer spin on them. I thought they were pretty good, but they had an edge. Like, did you ever see League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, the movie?
Yeah, I don't remember it too well, but I did see it, and I remember being baffled by it.
I like the look of it. It just didn't seem to go anywhere. They preserved the modern look to it, but they actually had a little bit of story. So League of Extraordinary Gentlemen did something interesting. I guess it's like a steampunk thing that they were doing with it, where they were trying to maintain a classic era but they put a new spin on the look and the feel of things. Same thing with Sherlock Holmes. So the story was interesting, and it was okay, but the look was really contemporary, and I kind of liked that. So I don't know. I haven't missed it now that I haven't seen it in a long time. I only watched it once or twice, but I was not offended by it. I'll put it that way. And generally, Robert Downey does a pretty good job with stuff. He brings things. He brings something to things.